going on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Welcome into the Juice Alert, everyone, episode number 15. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find the Juice Alert on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. I have a great show lined up for you guys today, man. We'll talk about the Washington football team. We'll talk about the Eagles. We'll talk about the Cowboys. We'll talk about the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Packers. We have so many topics lined up for you guys today, mainly talking football today. I will sprinkle in a basketball topic for the final, segment of the show in which I will break down the Celtics versus Miami Heat series. Okay, that should be a lot of fun. But before I get into the show, man, I have a couple of announcements about this show, the Juice Alert. So, the announcements are, as you noticed in the intro, I said this is episode number 15 of this show. I went back and I counted how many hour-long episodes I did, and I did 14. I did 14 of them previously up to this point of this episode, and this is going to be the 15th one. The reason why I say that is because from now on, each week, I'm going to be bringing you guys an hour-long show, okay? And I will, of course, break up that show. I'll put out the short clips of every topic that I cover, which I usually do when I do my hour-long shows. But this is going to be the new normal on this channel. Now, every now and then, if there's a whole lot of breaking news, like, for example, if Matt Ryan gets traded out of nowhere, I will probably, go ahead and make a little episode for you guys, about a 10, 15-minute episode talking about that. But I will add that into the show that I do weekly, okay? I plan to do an hour-long episode weekly. I hope I can keep that up. I'm going to try to do that. There are no promises there, but I think that I can keep it up, man. I really do. I'm at a space in my life where I'm comfortable enough doing about an hour-long show. That is the style that I want to, embrace from now on, and I'm excited to do it, man, okay? So, yeah, man, I have a lot of great topics lined up for you guys today, but before I get into those topics, I want to connect with you guys a lot more on the show because you guys mean the world to me, man. I mean, we're very close to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. The podcasting numbers have been jumping up day by day. I appreciate you guys, but I want to connect more with you guys, okay? So if you have not followed me on Instagram already, be sure to follow me on Instagram. Once again, my name is Jamon McKinney. A lot of people just call me Juice, though, okay? That's my nickname, okay? But yeah, you can call me Jamon if you want, or Juice. You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is GHIMAN_MCKINNEY. My Instagram account for the Juice Alert, that account is I can't talk today, okay? That account is the Juice Alert _. So the Juice Alert _, that's that Instagram account right there. The Twitter account for me, my Twitter is at GHIMANMCKINNEY. And the Juice Alert, Twitter account that I have for the show, that's at the Juice Alert. So if you want to connect with me more on Twitter or Instagram or troll me for whatever reason, hey, feel free to do it. I love to connect with you guys, okay? I love to have a bigger following on social media so I can connect with you guys. At a higher rate. But man, let's jump right into these topics, man, because we got a lot to get into. So I want to first start the show by talking about the Dallas Cowboys, a team that I said in the offseason heading into the 2020 NFL season was the most overrated team in all of football. And so far, it looks like I'm going to be probably proven right, okay? Now, the Cowboys lost to the Rams in week 1 of the NFL season, 20-17. And these were two teams that I felt are good teams as far as their rosters go, but not great teams. I did not have the Rams in the playoffs when I made my predictions. Same with the Cowboys. The Rams, I'm not too shocked that they won this game. They were the home team. They were opening up a new stadium. They've got a better head coach, in my opinion. And Dallas, they have an entire new coaching staff. So there's a lot of turnover on the Dallas coaching staff. The Rams looked more prepared in this game than the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think the gap in talent was all that wide between the two teams. So the team that was more prepared and had the better head coach ultimately won this game, in my opinion. Now, some positives if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan are the fact that this defense actually played relatively well. I didn't think this Cowboys defense was going to be all that great. So that is one thing that I was a little bit shocked about. The Cowboys did only hold the Rams to 20 points, but guess what, Dallas Cowboy fans? It wasn't good enough. And unfortunately, Leighton Vander Esch goes down with injury. He's out for 6 to 8 weeks. Blake Jarwin, their starting tight end, is out for the season, man. But look, I want to get to the offensive pass interference call right here that happened, in this game. Listen, the Cowboys had opportunity to kick a field goal with about 12 minutes left to go in the game in the fourth quarter. They chose not to do that. And ultimately, I think that was actually offensive pass interference on Michael Gallup, I believe. Yes. So I would have probably thrown the flag. I understand Cowboys fans are frustrated, but man, listen. There was also an interception that Jared Goff threw in that game where he was clearly held by the face mask, and the Cowboys got away with it. So Dallas, that game did not ultimately come down to that one play. And ultimately, you would have probably tied the game right there. It's not a guarantee you would have won the game if Dak Prescott completes that pass to Michael Gallup. So I'm not here to listen to Cowboys fans saying we got robbed. It came down to that call. No, it did not. You guys just flat out were not good enough to win this game. And it's funny because Dallas Cowboys fans all last year, they blamed everything on Jason Garrett. They said Jason Garrett's the worst head coach in the world. He stinks. He sucks. Once he leaves the building, we're gonna be a Super Bowl caliber team. And Jason Garrett's gone. And in the end, the Cowboys come up short versus a good team once again. That's my problem with the Dallas Cowboys is they can't beat good teams. Dak Prescott, ever since his rookie season, he's 7-15 versus teams above 500. The reality of the situation was Dak Prescott was not good enough to win this game. He just was not good enough to win this game. 17 points is not good enough versus this Rams team, who actually does not have all that great of a defense. It's a good defense, but not a great defense. Obviously, they have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on the team, but outside of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, it's a lot of marginal players. It's a lot of M-E-H, okay? So, Dak, listen, man, you got an elite offensive line, you got a star running back, you got 3 capable wide receivers. They just gave you CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Dak, what's the excuse now? Now you have a better head coach than Mike McCarthy. What is the excuse? Everyone keeps telling me that Dak Prescott was failing last year because of his head coach. Well, guess what? His head coach is gone now, and Dak gets even more weapons this year by the Cowboys adding CeeDee Lamb. The offense is still intact, and he can't do anything with it, man. And I saw Kyler Murray put on a show versus the defending NFC champion 49ers this past Sunday. I saw Lamar Jackson put on a show versus the Cleveland Browns this past Sunday. I saw that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, put on a show versus the Minnesota Vikings, a rival team on the road. I saw Russell Wilson put on a show versus the Falcons. I saw Patrick Mahomes put on a show. I saw Cam Newton put on a show. I saw all these quarterbacks put on a show this past Sunday. And Dak Prescott has every bit as good of a supporting cast as all those guys. May have a better supporting cast than a lot of those guys, actually, okay? I think Kyler Murray would love to have Dak Prescott's offensive line. He'd love to have Ezekiel Elliott over King and Drake. And guess what? Dak Prescott once again shrinks. And wasn't Dak Prescott supposed to be in the MVP conversation according to Cowboys fans? Weren't the Dallas Cowboys supposed to have 3 1,000-yard wide receivers? There was some wide receiver in the Cowboys, I forget which one it was, it may have been all of them, that said, oh, we're going to have 3 1,000-yard receivers this year. I don't see it. Where are the results? Where are the results, Cowboys fans? Where are the results? Ultimately, the Cowboys are what I thought they were. They're a good team. The Rams are not a slouch. They're not an awful team. So I expect the Cowboys to respond. They'll probably beat the Falcons. They'll probably beat the Browns next week. After that, I think they play the Browns after that. They may or may not. I forget who they play after the Falcons game. Actually, they play the Seahawks. They play the Falcons and the Seahawks, then the Browns, okay? They'll win a couple of those games. The Cowboys will probably finish around 8 to 9-7. They're not an awful team. They have some talent. But ultimately, this team is not a Super Bowl caliber roster. And a big reason is because of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, 64% completion percentage, 266 yards, 1 touchdown pass, a 92 pass rating. That's not good enough. With all those weapons that he has, that's not good enough. And for the Dallas Cowboys, what I've always said is what can go wrong will go wrong for this team. The Dallas Cowboys, over the last 23 years, it seems like they've been hyped up as this Super Bowl contending team every single year. But guess what? They have 3 playoff wins in the last 23 seasons. The Dallas Cowboys, once again, are fool's gold. This defense is overall not that great. Trust me, that was a fluke, okay, in my opinion. I don't expect that defense to be holding teams to 20 points very often. And ultimately, when the defense does something right, the offense can't get it right. So Dallas, not sold on this team. Dak Prescott's not a top 10 quarterback. He showed you once again because he cannot beat good teams. And the Dallas Cowboys, I'm just not sold on them. They proved versus the Rams that they are not Super Bowl contenders and that I was right about them ultimately. But the Rams, they're a pretty good team. I might have to sleep on the Rams a little bit because I did not have the Rams in the playoffs. I did not have the Rams winning very many games. Might have to revisit that. I'll see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks. It's only one game, but Dallas, I've seen enough, okay? I've talked enough about Dallas. Let's transition to what happened in New Orleans this past Sunday. So the New Orleans Saints, this past Sunday in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season, defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34-23. And I will say this about this game. Before I get into how I felt about this game, can we just appreciate the fact that we get to see Tom Brady and Drew Brees still playing football? I mean, Tom Brady, the guy is 43 years old. He's a legend. Drew Brees is 41 years old. He's a legend as well. Tom Brady, this past Sunday, became the oldest player in NFL history to score a touchdown in a game. I mean, that's insane. Tom Brady is an absolute legend. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Drew Brees, bona fide Hall of Famer. That was greatness that we witnessed on the field this past Sunday. Two great quarterbacks that will definitely go in the Hall of Fame, okay? So I wanted to appreciate that moment, okay? My biggest takeaway, however, is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should not be that worried about this loss. Buccaneers fans, don't overreact to this loss too much. This is not something that you should be concerned about. I know everyone wants to bury Tom Brady. They're going to say, Tom Brady looks washed. See, I told you. Did you see Cam Newton? He looked really good versus the Dolphins. Oh, Tom Brady, he's throwing pick sixes. He's falling off a cliff. He's no good. This Buccaneers team is overrated. And I say to those people, hey, go ahead. Laugh all you want for this week. But guess what? I guarantee you, once the playoffs roll around, the Buccaneers, they will be in that tournament. I expect the Buccaneers to still win this division, and you're not gonna be laughing that much longer because the Buccaneers, they're still a very good team in my opinion, okay? Keep in mind the Buccaneers, they were on the road versus a team that won 13 games last year. The Buccaneers, who had a lot of turnover this offseason, had no preseason games. Tom Brady is learning a whole new system. The New Orleans Saints, they seemed much more prepared, as they should have been much more prepared. They returned their entire coaching staff, virtually the same exact roster from a year ago. Not to mention Tom Brady, he threw an interception where he had miscommunication with Mike Evans. There was a blocked field goal in that game. Tom Brady did throw a pick six. Not going to lie to you, Tom Brady did not play his greatest game. Not trying to defend Tom Brady here. There was also a fumble and special teams to the Buccaneers, and ultimately the Saints, they won by 11 points. Congratulations. What do you want, a cookie, New Orleans? You're supposed to win this game. New Orleans is a team that is capable of winning the Super Bowl. And Tampa Bay, to go on the road with no preseason games, learning a whole new system, incorporating all those new parts. In fact, the Buccaneers should be encouraged. This was a one-possession game heading into the fourth quarter. Now, obviously, New Orleans pulled away late, but is anyone totally surprised that New Orleans won this game? If New Orleans lost this game, that says more about New Orleans as a team than it does Tampa Bay. You should not judge the Buccaneers off of 1 week. Give them about 5 to 6 weeks. And if they're struggling by that time, then come talk to me, okay? Then if they're struggling, if Tom Brady is looking washed once again, if he's throwing a bunch of picks, if this team is not disciplined enough and they're losing games, hey, then we can have a conversation. But this is 1 week, people. You guys are such prisoners of the moment, man. It's so crazy. All the things I've been seeing on Twitter, all the people hit me up saying, the Buccaneers suck. And by the way, the Buccaneers are my Super Bowl pick. They are still my Super Bowl pick to this day. I expected the Buccaneers to split with the Saints this year. I expected the Buccaneers to not go undefeated. I mean, guys, calm down. And what I saw from this game is Tom Brady, he is still capable of playing at a high level. Tom Brady actually looked pretty good in this game, in my opinion. Tom Brady, he moved around pretty well, in my opinion, in that pocket. I believe this offense fits Tom Brady. He does not seem uncomfortable in this offense. His arm looks good enough to me. Did you see that 29-yard pass they threw to Chris Godwin? That was early in the game. Did you see those deep bombs they threw to Mike Evans that drew pass interference calls? Did you see that one throw that he made to Scotty Miller that went for a big gain down the sideline? Tom Brady can still push the ball down the field. Tom Brady is no longer an elite quarterback, but he is a quarterback that is more than capable of winning a Super Bowl at this point in his career. He is a quarterback more than capable of going out there and winning 10 to 12 games. Just give this time. It's a whole new system. It's been a weird off season with a whole lot of Zoom meetings, okay? And honestly, I think Bruce Arians did a very good job of incorporating some of the things Tom Brady does well to this offense. There was a lot of quick passes. There were some screen passes. He did a good job of mixing in some deep passes when they need to be, mixed in. If the Buccaneers are more efficient and they don't have as many penalties, this is a whole different ballgame. And listen, Tampa Bay, they know that they have to clean up the penalties. They know they have to be more efficient. They know they have to be better on special teams. They know they have to get the run game going. I trust Tom Brady. I trust this team to get it together, and listen, over the next couple of weeks, I'm just going to say it right now. I believe heading into the Green Bay Packers game, they're going to be a team that only has one loss. The next couple of games, they face the Panthers at home. They go to Denver on the road. They have a better roster than Denver, in my opinion. Denver has a bad offensive line and no Von Miller and an inexperienced quarterback in Drew Lock. They'll win that game. Chargers up next. Did you see the Chargers versus the Bengals? A 2-win Bengals team the Chargers were struggling with. You mean to tell me Tom Brady and that Buccaneers squad can't beat that team at home? And then at Chicago, I know Chicago looked good versus Detroit, but I'm not going to, praise Chicago too much just because Detroit was a three-win team from last year. When they face Green Bay, they'll only be a one-loss team. And they actually might beat Green Bay because by that time, Tom Brady and his team will probably be comfortable. They'll be, more familiar with each other, and they'll be more in sync, in my opinion, okay? So listen, please stop overreacting. I still believe the Buccaneers are a better team than the Saints. I still have the Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. I still have the Buccaneers winning this division. Listen, man, Saints fans, you can flex all you want right now, but all I'm going to say is, listen, have your laugh right now because Tom Brady and this Buccaneers team, they're not done yet. Tom Brady is not finished. And I believe Tampa Bay will turn around at some point this season. They will still be a playoff team. And I still have them winning the Super Bowl this year in Tampa Bay in their home stadium. Knock on wood, people. And take that to the bank if you want. Okay, up next, let's talk about the Washington football team. So the Washington football team defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season, 27-17. And a lot of people are shocked about this game. I'm not one of those people. I've been saying all off season, and people have clowned me. People have said, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. This team sucks. This team stinks. They're the worst team in the NFL. They're going to win 2 to 3 games. And I've been saying all off season, nope, you're wrong. Washington is the most underrated team in all football in 2020. Now, I'm not going to overreact too much to this game just because Washington, Dwayne Haskins, still a young quarterback. The offensive line is still very shaky. And let's be real, it was week number 1, Philadelphia. I would put that loss more so on Philadelphia more than Washington flexing their muscles, even though Washington played a very good game, okay? But listen, man, I'm not going to overreact too much. I do think Washington is still about a year away. They need one more good draft. They need to add a couple of free agents, and then I'll feel really good about Washington potentially being a playoff team, especially if Dwayne Haskins continues to progress, man. But listen, man, I told you guys all off season, this is going to be a top 10. This is going to be a top 10 defense. And I'm going to take that to the bank because the Washington football team's defense, they had 8 sacks versus the Philadelphia Eagles. They forced 3 fumbles. They only allowed 57 rushing yards, and they held Carson Wentz and that crew to 17 points, okay? Chase Young, I told you guys, this guy might be the best pass rusher to come out of the draft since Myles Garrett and Khalil Mack. I told you he's better than both Bosa brothers. I told you he was going to change that defensive line. I told you Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are a match made in heaven, coaching this kid up on defense, and Chase Young did not disappoint. Chase Young, rookie out of Ohio State at defensive end, had 2 tackles, 1.5 sacks, a forced fumble. He was very good. In Washington, they've got a ferocious defensive front. Listen, man, if you're a team, you better hope that you get out to an early lead and score first versus Washington, because if they go up 10 to 15 or 12 points on you early in the game, if they score double digits on you early, that pass rush is coming after your quarterback. It's going to be hard for you to stop this Washington football team, and it's going to be hard for you to move the football, man. Okay, listen. Jimmy Moreland, he played a great game. He had an interception versus Carson Wentz. Ronald Darby played great as well. At times he did get burned a little bit versus Jalen Reagor, but the secondary is improved. The linebackers are good. This defensive front is for real. And Ron Rivera has this team competing at a high level. And I told you, Ron Rivera is going to turn the Washington football team around. This team went down 17-0 to Philadelphia. And past Washington football teams, led by Jay Gruden, led by whoever coach was coaching that team at the time, they've had a lot of bad coaches over the years. Those teams would have laid down and said, yep, I'm dead. Nope. Washington did not do that. Ron Rivera, he made that team keep fighting. He kept that team's spirit up. Ron Rivera is going to have this team competing. They're going to play hard. They play very hard for Ron Rivera. They believe Ron Rivera is a good coach. Those people in that locker room, they did not believe in Jay Gruden last year. Ron Rivera, he's a top 10 coach. He's going to change that culture. I have all the faith in the world in Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. And the beauty of Washington's defense being so good and Ron Rivera believing in Dwayne Haskins is now the young quarterback that used to go to Ohio State. He played Ohio State for a year. Well, not a year. He was there for several years. But Dwayne Haskins, a couple years ago, went to Ohio State, had a great season, where he threw 50 touchdown passes, fell to the Washington football team at number 15 overall. He had a rocky rookie season, but I think Dwayne Haskins, he's going to hit, okay? I fully believe Dwayne Haskins is going to hit one day. Dwayne Haskins didn't have the best day this past week. 55% completion percentage, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, 82.5 pass rating. That's good. But what I like about Dwayne Haskins is this guy has a lot of poise. This guy has a lot of confidence, and this guy is a competitor that is tough as nails. Dwayne Haskins started 3 for 11 on the day. After that, he shaked it off, went 14 for 19 down the stretch in that game, and had a touchdown and had 146 yards from that point after starting 3 and 11 on the day passing. Okay, Dwayne Haskins, this guy has the mental makeup to be a franchise quarterback. This guy has the talent to be a franchise quarterback. Mentally, Dwayne Haskins is in a different place than he was last year. You can tell. And he's also more mobile, too. Dwayne Haskins rushed for a couple yards in that game as well. Dwayne Haskins was put into a terrible situation last year, but he has been saved by the good graces of Ron Rivera. And the good thing about Dwayne Haskins is he can now develop properly, learning from, playing for a coach that believes in him, an offensive coordinator that believes in him. And guess what? He doesn't have to go out and score 30 points a game for this Washington team to win. That's the beauty of it, because this defense is so good. So Dwayne Haskins, all he needs to do is just be patient and not turn the football over and keep getting better and better each and every week. And eventually, Dwayne Haskins is probably going to manifest into a top 10 quarterback like I think that he can become. Because Dwayne Haskins, I see the arm talent. I see the accuracy. When Dwayne Haskins is at his best, he's very, very good. He's very inconsistent right now just because, he's raw. He's only got 8 starts under his belt. But I believe Dwayne Haskins is going to hit, man. I think that he got way too much hate last year for being put in a bad situation. But, man, Washington, they got a real defense, a quarterback that is young and on the rise, in my opinion, a real coaching staff that knows what they're doing. They're very good up front on the defensive side of the football. And I think that Washington is definitely a team on the rise. The Ron Rivera era in Washington, led by Chase Young and Dwayne Haskins as well, is out to a pretty darn good start, I would say. Washington is on the rise. Okay, people, let's address the elephant in the room. The Philadelphia Eagles looked awful versus the Washington football team this past week. They looked bad. And if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan today, you should be ashamed and embarrassed by your football team's performance this past Sunday. The Philadelphia Eagles, they got out-coached, they got out-muscled, they got outclassed, they got out-quarterbacked in this game. Yes, Dwayne Haskins played better than Carson Wentz, in my opinion. He had a better pass rating. He made the tough throws when they need to be made. He didn't turn the football over like Carson Wentz. He played better than Carson Wentz. And ultimately, the Philadelphia Eagles laid down to the Washington football team. They laid down. After taking a 17-0 lead, they laid down to that team. It was ugly. It was bad. And honestly, I gotta say, you have to blame Carson Wentz for this loss. I understand that there was a lot of injuries to the offensive line. I understand that Miles Sanders did not play. I understand that Alshon Jeffrey did not play. I understand that Javon Hargrave did not play. I understand Derek Barnett did not play. But guys, guess what? Washington last year, they were a 3-win football team. Philadelphia, guess what? You had a 17-0 lead and you squandered it. And Philadelphia Eagles fans told me all offseason that Carson Wentz is an elite quarterback because he can carry a roster that's loaded with injuries. Carson Wentz can't beat a 3-win Washington team up 17-0. He can't do that. Carson Wentz got paid big money for a reason. He got a big fat contract, 4-year extension, worth $32 million per year. On the road, with the better team and the better coaching staff, Carson Wentz can't hold a 17-point lead. Carson Wentz had a 57% completion percentage, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 72 pass rating. That's not good enough, Carson Wentz. He was staring down wide receivers. He was missing open throws. He was holding onto the ball way too long. Carson Wentz just looked a mess in this game. And I'm not going to poo-poo Carson Wentz too much more just because we know Carson Wentz is still a fairly good quarterback. I believe Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback. We know he's talented. I expect Carson Wentz to bounce back at home versus the Rams. But I have to address this topic right here because Carson Wentz is too inconsistent to be considered an elite quarterback. The elite quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion, are Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and Lamar Jackson. All 5 of those quarterbacks are more talented than Carson Wentz. All 5 of those quarterbacks are more consistent than Carson Wentz. And all 5 of those quarterbacks are more accomplished than Carson Wentz. And before you talk about Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson has a playoff win. Carson Wentz does not have a playoff win. Lamar Jackson, he's won an NFL MVP. Carson Wentz has not won an NFL MVP. I understand Carson Wentz was on his way to winning MVP in 2017, but guess what? He got hurt, and Lamar Jackson has never been hurt in his career, okay? Lamar Jackson is 20-3 for his career as a starter. Do you know Carson Wentz's record in the last 28 games? 14-14. That is lack of consistency on the part from Carson Wentz. All 5 of those quarterbacks are the elite quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and they're better than Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz, he can battle it out with Cam Newton, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, even Dak Prescott maybe, even though Dak Prescott is not better than Carson Wentz in my opinion. He can battle it out with those guys. Carson Wentz, he's not in the elite class, okay? And let me tell you this right now. Here's a fact. If you take away Carson Wentz's best and worst season in the NFL, you can make the argument that guy's not even close to being elite. Now, I think Carson Wentz is knocking on that door. If Carson Wentz makes a deep playoff run this year and he goes out and puts up numbers and wins a bunch of games, I will maybe put him in that elite conversation or that elite category, I should say. But let's do the evaluation right here. Carson Wentz in 2016, he was a rookie. He went 7-9 as a starter, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 79.3 pass rating. That was his worst season as a pro. And let's be real. He was a rookie. He inherited a bad team. Okay, let's take that season away from his career. 2017, Carson Wentz. The very next year was maybe the best player in all football in 2017. 11-2 as a starter, 33 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions. Okay, that's great. But let's take that season away. Let's take away Carson Wentz's best and worst season and evaluate what he is. Because if you take away Aaron Rodgers' best and worst season, that guy's still elite. Same with Tom Brady, same with Drew Brees, and same with some of these other quarterbacks out there. In the past, Ben Roethlisberger, if you take away his best and worst season, in his prime, he was still probably elite. Carson Wentz in 2018 went 5-6 and had a 69% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 102 pass rating, and didn't even play a full season, okay? Carson Wentz in 2019, this past year, 9-7 record, 63% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 93 pass rating. This past week versus Washington, he lost the game, 57% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 72 pass rating. Those are good seasons, but are they elite seasons? Not so sure. And by the way, is it fair to say that if Carson Wentz was in any other division last year, does he go to the playoffs? I don't think so. Because Carson Wentz, the final 4 games of the season last year, beat up on the weak NFC least. And I'm calling it the NFC least because that division was not good last year. See, Carson Wentz, he got fat on the NFC East last year late in the season, and he backdoored his way into the playoffs, okay? That's all cool. That's fly. I understand that he did not have a whole lot of weapons, but I can only give you so much credit for that, Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has never had back-to-back winning seasons. You can't make the argument that Carson Wentz is an elite quarterback just based off of last year when guys like Aaron Rodgers go to NFC Championship games last year, when guys like Deshaun Watson win a playoff game last year, when Lamar Jackson wins the MVP last year, when Russell Wilson is making deep playoff runs, when Patrick Mahomes is winning Super Bowls. You cannot put Carson Wentz in that elite conversation. As of, what's today? I don't know what today is, but as of September 2020, Carson Wentz is not in the elite quarterback conversation, that's fine, because I think Carson Wentz is a very good quarterback. You could do a whole lot worse than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is in the top 10, but we have to stop this here, people. Carson Wentz is not elite. He's not in the elite conversation. If you think he is, you're fully mistaken. The last 28 games, 14-14 record. Carson Wentz, he can't stay healthy either. His rookie season, he was banged up a lot. His sophomore season, he has a season-ending injury. His junior year had a season-ending injury. And in the playoffs, he gets hurt, has to leave the game. There's a trend right here, people. There's a lack of consistency from Carson Wentz as far as his ability to stay on the field and as far as his production on the field as well. So all I'm trying to say, people, is, okay, let me say this. Let's not poo-poo Carson Wentz too much for looking bad versus Washington. I believe Philadelphia responds. They'll get healthier. They'll win this division. But also, let's not act like Carson Wentz is this big bad dog out there. Carson Wentz, he's pretty good, but he's not quite an elite quarterback. And as of right now, based on my book, Carson Wentz is too inconsistent to be considered an elite quarterback. As of right now, which is September of 2020. Okay, people, I'm going to take a short break. I will be right back. And after this short break, I will talk about Kyler Murray and how the Cardinals beat the 49ers this past Sunday in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. Okay, I am back right here. Welcome to the Juice Alert, people. Once again, if you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert, be sure to do it right about now. You can find me on YouTube and podcasting platforms, all that great stuff. Be sure to follow me on social media. Links will be in the description of this episode. All right, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. So the Arizona Cardinals, they beat the San Francisco 49ers in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season, 24-20. And the biggest story of this game is actually the Cardinals' defense, in my opinion. A big reason why I had the Arizona Cardinals as the 7th seed in the playoffs this year, when I did my offseason predictions, I had the Cardinals going 9-7 and just barely sneaking into the playoffs. I believe I had, let's think right here really quickly. I had Tampa Bay in the playoffs. I had Green Bay in the playoffs. I had Seattle in the playoffs. I had Philadelphia in the playoffs. I had San Fran in the playoffs. I had New Orleans in the playoffs. And I had Arizona in the playoffs, okay? A big reason why I say Arizona is going to make the playoffs is because I believe their defense is going to be much improved. And that defense showed up versus the 49ers this past Sunday. Keep in mind, the 49ers last year offensively were top 5 in nearly every single statistical category. And the Cardinals, they held the 49ers to only 20 points in that matchup in week 1 this past Sunday, okay? The 49ers were only 2 for 11 on third down. You got to give the Cardinals defense some credit for that, man. Listen, Jimmy Garoppolo, he had a chance to win the game late in the fourth quarter and, have a game-winning drive, but the Cardinals defense, they stopped the 49ers. They got that stop, and they won the game for the team. Now, I understand the 49ers, they had Deebo Samuel out. Brandon Ayuk did not play, but you still got to give the Cardinals a lot of credit, man, because the 49ers, they still, in my opinion, have better players than the Cardinals, but the Cardinals, they pull through, man, okay? And listen, you look at Patrick Peterson, you look at Byron Murphy, you look at Budda Baker. They played well in that secondary this past Sunday. You got Isaiah Simmons, Devontae Campbell, Devon Kennard. I told you that linebacker core was going to be much improved due to Isaiah Simmons and those guys being added to the team. You got Chandler Jones on the edge to rush the passer. That guy's amazing. He's got 49 sacks over the past 3 seasons. Zach Allen, a guy the Cardinals drafted a year ago that I was actually very excited about. He actually played very well. He had a sack this past week on Jimmy Garoppolo. Jordan Phillips, he started in the game versus the 49ers. He's a good player at defensive tackle. Anytime you have a great quarterback, and Kyler Murray, he may not be a great quarterback yet, but he's very close in my opinion. You just need to hold teams to 20 to 25 points. If you can hold teams to under 30, Arizona, you're going to win a lot of football games. And the Cardinals last year, they statistically had the worst defense in the NFL as far as total defense. You have to give that front office a lot of credit. They did a great job of improving that defense, okay? That defense is more athletic, they're better, and they're giving this team a chance to win. And that's a big reason why I believe Arizona is going to go to the playoffs this year. And another big reason is because Kyler Murray, that guy's a machine, man. Kyler Murray might be about as tall as I am. I'm about 5'11". Kyler Murray is listed at 5'10", 5'11". He's as tall as me, but Kyler Murray, man, that guy's a big boy on that field. Kyler Murray, He threw the ball 40 times, completed 26 of those passes, 230 yards, 1 touchdown. Did throw 1 interception, but that interception really wasn't on Kyler Murray. That was just the defense making a good play, in my opinion. But also Kyler Murray, what makes him special is his ability to run the football. Kyler Murray carried the football 13 times for 91 yards. Sometimes quarterbacks are going to be asked to just carry a team and put a team on their back. And I believe Kyler Murray can be that guy. Kyler Murray, I made a film analysis on him in the offseason. I said this guy is going to be an elite quarterback one day. He's well on his way to being an elite quarterback one day. I believe that he might already be a top 10 quarterback. He was excellent. And the one thing I liked about Kyler Murray was he was patient versus the 49ers. You can't force things versus the 49ers. Kyler Murray, he just took the check downs. He just kept the chains moving. He played a very efficient game, and he took the shots down the field when he needed to, and he ran the football when he needed to. Kyler Murray played an excellent game. He was great. DeAndre Hopkins, he continues to show the Houston Texans why they're stupid for trading him away. DeAndre Hopkins caught 14 passes for 151 yards. He was great. Now, Christian Kirk, you got to do better. Andy Isabella, please get on the field and make plays for Kyler Murray. Larry Fitzgerald, you did all right, but, I need you to do a little bit better. Dan Arnold, he's a decent tight end, but I'm not quite sold yet. I'd like to see the Cardinals take more deep shots down the field because Kyler Murray, he's got a very strong arm. He's a very good deep ball thrower. And part of Cliff Kingsbury's theory is my offensive line isn't all that great, so I can't take a whole lot of deep shots. And listen, Cliff Kingsbury, he likes to spread you out. He likes to spread all his wide receivers out and say, hey, let's distribute the football that way, okay? But, man, okay, I got to say, the Cardinals, they're a real threat, man, okay? The Cardinals, they check off a lot of boxes. Great quarterback. They've got that. Run game. They've got that. They had 180 yards rushing in this game. Wide receivers. They got to start wide receiver. I think Cliff Kingsbury is one of the more creative head coaches in the NFL. Check that box off. Defense. The defense is good enough to me. You got a star edge rusher in Chandler Jones. You got a top 10 quarterback in Patrick Peterson. You got solid linebackers. I mean, there's a lot to like about Arizona, man. Okay? So Arizona, they're 1-0. They face Washington next week. I can't wait to watch that matchup. Kyler Murray versus Dwayne Haskins, 2 young quarterbacks that I'm huge fans of, okay? I'd love to see Kyler Murray, go up against that Washington defense and see what he has. And, yeah, the Arizona Cardinals, they're a team definitely on the rise. And I still think they're a playoff team. And they proved to me on Sunday that they're more than capable by knocking off the 49ers, the defending NFC champion 49ers. Okay, people, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk about that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, who put on nothing short of an absolute show versus the overrated, overhyped Minnesota Vikings. I told you guys all offseason, the Vikings are not a playoff team. Anyone who felt the Vikings were a playoff team, I seriously questioned what they were thinking. The Vikings, they lost a ton of talent on defense. Their offensive line is still not very good. Kirk Cousins shows once again he can't win big games. Green Bay, to me, I felt that they were a top 5 team heading into this year. They just beat the Minnesota Vikings this past week in week 1 of the NFL season, 43-34. Yeah, man, I mean, Green Bay, they look very good. They were up 29-10 at one point in this game, so I don't really worry about the defense kind of collapsing after Aaron Rodgers puts them up by a bunch of points, okay? They'll be fine. If it was the playoffs, they definitely clamped down a lot better. And that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, completed 73% of his throws, 364 yards, 4 touchdown passes, a 127 passer rating. He was great. He was nothing short of sensational. And Aaron Rodgers showed once again why he's an elite quarterback. And everyone all offseason was saying, Aaron Rodgers is washed. Aaron Rodgers is over the hill. He's no good. He's no longer a top 5 quarterback. And I heard all this talk, and I just said to myself, these people sound stupid. So do yourself a favor. If you think Aaron Rodgers is not a top 5 quarterback, do yourself a favor. Get on the bandwagon with me. Take these gems from me and stop sounding stupid. Because Aaron Rodgers, outside of Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, there's not any quarterback in the NFL that is clearly better than him. Right now, Mahomes and Russell Wilson, they're a little bit of a notch above everyone else, okay? Even though Aaron Rodgers did beat Russell Wilson in the playoffs last year. Just wanted to throw that out there, people. I watched that game. Aaron Rodgers outplayed Russell Wilson. Just throwing that out. Just throwing that out there, okay? But outside of those two guys, Mahomes and Russell Wilson, isn't Aaron Rodgers an elite quarterback by default? I mean, Did you guys see Tom Brady struggle on the road versus the Saints this past week? Did we not see Drew Brees lose in the first round of the playoffs last year versus the Vikings, a team Aaron Rodgers swept? Did we not see Drew Brees' arm strength absolutely deteriorate in the playoffs over the past 2 seasons? Carson Wentz, I already talked about Carson Wentz earlier in the show. Carson Wentz, he doesn't have a playoff win. He's never had back-to-back winning seasons. He's 14-14 in his last 28 games. Carson Wentz isn't on Aaron Rodgers' level quite yet. Lamar Jackson, I love you, Lamar, but you don't have a playoff win. Until Lamar Jackson wins a playoff game, he cannot be top 3 at his position. I'll make him an elite quarterback for now, just because he won NFL MVP. Winning a playoff game is the only other step that he needs to take, but he's not better than Aaron Rodgers right now. If I'm starting a team, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers over Lamar Jackson. Deshaun Watson, love Deshaun Watson, but he's not better than Aaron Rodgers at the line of scrimmage. Aaron Rodgers is one of the 3 smartest quarterbacks in the NFL. Deshaun Watson last year, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Last year, Aaron Rodgers, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Deshaun Watson is great, but I can't quite put him over Aaron Rodgers just yet. However, if you want to say Deshaun Watson is better than Aaron Rodgers, go ahead. Deshaun Watson, he checks up a lot of boxes. Aaron Rodgers, at worst, is a top 5 quarterback because when I look at guys like Matt Ryan and Cam Newton, the only other guys up next, that are in contention for maybe being an elite quarterback at the moment, they're too inconsistent. Cam Newton never had back-to-back winning seasons. Matt Ryan, for half his career, has missed the playoffs, and he's just not better than Aaron Rodgers at his best, okay? Aaron Rodgers last year still had a very good season, in my opinion, despite what the media tells you, okay? The media continues to lie to you about a lot of things because Aaron Rodgers last year had 4,000 yards, 26 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, and a 96 pass rating. That's still very good, people. It's not Aaron Rodgers' best season of all time, but that's better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a better season than what a lot of quarterbacks are putting out there. And Aaron Rodgers, are we not going to act like he was not in the NFC Championship game last year, playing with a first-year head coach, learning a whole new system, hardly had any weapons outside Davante Adams, who did not get 1,000 yards last year. No other wide receiver on Aaron Rodgers had over 500 yards on his team. No other wide receiver. Who was Aaron Rodgers' tight end last year? Jimmy Graham? He can't get down the field anymore. He's washed up. And even when Davante Adams gets hurt last year, the team goes 4-0. Aaron Rodgers has a perfect pass rating versus the Raiders. Aaron Rodgers, the past 2 seasons, was the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards and threw for and fewer than 5 interceptions for back-to-back seasons. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, you name me a quarterback that has a better arm than Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not talking arm strength. Because if I'm talking arm strength, then Josh Allen and Jameis Winston are 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm talking arm strength, as well as accuracy, as well as anticipation skills, as well as timing with your passes, all that good stuff. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, as of right now, is the most talented thrower of the football. Aaron Rodgers is accurate. He's mobile. Great pocket presence. He's the smartest quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, outside of Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And Aaron Rodgers proved once again versus the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday that he runs the NFC North and that he is still an elite quarterback. There's a reason I told you this offseason to not be shocked if Aaron Rodgers wins NFL MVP. And Aaron Rodgers reminded the world this past Sunday how great he actually is. Aaron Rodgers, as of September 2020, is still an elite quarterback. And outside of Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, there's no quarterback in the NFL better than Aaron Rodgers at the moment playing football right now. Okay, let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars next. So the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season beat the Indianapolis Colts 27-20. Now, I'm not going to overreact to this game just because it is week number 1, but I have to admit, it seems like I might be on pace to be wrong about the Jaguars. The Jaguars, I said in the offseason that they were going to be the worst team in the NFL in 2020. They will be drafting for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields during the 2021 NFL Draft. I said Doug Marrone is not a great head coach. I said the losses of Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey, AJ Boye, Yannick Ngakoue, Marcel Darius, as well as Leonard Fournette would definitely hurt this team. But so far, I've been proven wrong. This team is scrappy. This team is a feisty team. This team is competing. And this team beat a very sound Indianapolis Colts team this past week. And Garder Minshew, I have to give him a lot of praise because Garder Minshew, he deserves to be talked about more. Garder Minshew is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL as of right now in 2020 in September, in which I'm recording this episode, okay? Garder Minshew this past week versus the Colts became the fourth quarterback in NFL history to complete 95% of his passes in a game. Garder Minshew went 19 for 20, had 3 touchdown passes, and a 142 passer rating. That throw that Garder Minshew made to DJ Chark in the back of the end zone, where he kind of looked off the defender and threw an absolute bullet toward the back of the end zone, that was a thing of beauty, man. It really was. Garder Minshew, he's a very accurate quarterback. He makes good decisions. He processes very quickly. He's got a very quick release. He does a very good job of changing arm angles when he needs to. And Garder Minshew is a guy that I would love to play for. If I was an NFL wide receiver and Garder Minshew was my quarterback, I would adore the guy because that guy, he's feisty, he's tough, and he does not go down without a fight, man. This guy, there was a game I watched last year versus the Broncos where the team was down a bunch of points. He rallies them back, and just his body language on the sideline, the way he rallies the troops, the way he interacts with his teammates. Garder Minshew, he has the intangibles to be a legit franchise quarterback. He's an excellent leader. You can see it on the sideline. You can see it within his eyes. Garder Minshew, this guy's been a fighter his entire life. This guy was a 6th-round pick. He defied the odds. He beat out Nick Foles this past year, who got a big-time contract from the Jaguars. A lot of people this offseason were saying, oh, the Jaguars, they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. They're going to draft Justin Fields. And maybe that might be true because, honestly, I still think the Jaguars are the worst team in their division. I still think this team is not very good. But guess what, people? Whether the Jaguars are picking number 1 overall or not, Garder Minshew, he's not going to go down without a fight. He's not going to lay down. Garder Minshew is going to make the Jaguars fight very hard to replace him. He's not going down without a fight. And last year, Garder Minshew actually had a very good rookie season that no one talked about. Garder Minshew last year was 6-6 as a starter, 60% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And everyone wants to talk about Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's great, but Kyler Murray, he threw 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Daniel Jones, I think Daniel Jones has potential, but Daniel Jones threw 24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Daniel Jones won 3 games as a starter. Kyler Murray won 3 games. No, he didn't win 3 games. Kyler Murray won 5 games as a starter. Garder Minshew won 6 in 12 games played as a starter. Garder Minshew, he's pretty good. We should talk about Garder Minshew more. Now, I want to talk about some other young players that stood out for the Jaguars, in my opinion, in this past week. C.J. Henderson, their 1st-round pick out of Florida. He played very well. He had an interception in this game. DJ Chark is a good wide receiver that no one really talks about. And I got to admit, this offensive line actually played fairly well. I said the Jaguars' offensive line has some question marks heading into this year. And they proved me wrong. They played very well. And Laviska Shenault, he's another good weapon that Garder Minshew would love throwing to. He had a touchdown in this game. So I'm not going to overreact to the Jaguars winning this game just because I'm still very shocked. And I'm still convinced they're not a playoff team at all. You know, they still need to add talent to the team. They're not close to Tennessee as far as their talent goes. Houston is better. You know, there's a whole lot more teams more talented than Jacksonville. But keep your eye on the Jaguars because they have a feisty young quarterback in Garder Minshew that should be talked about more. And the Jaguars, they're a team to look out for in 2020. Okay, so we saw Tom Brady debut for the Buccaneers this past week. It wasn't the greatest performance for Tom Brady, but we saw Cam Newton go out there and ball versus the Miami Dolphins. Cam Newton, he looked great with the Patriots, you know. He went 15 for 19, 79% completion percentage, 15 carries on the day. He had 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, you know. And the Patriots, they're utilizing Cam Newton in ways the Panthers should have been utilizing Cam Newton a lot more during his days back with the Panthers. The Panthers, in my opinion, criminally underutilized Cam Newton. They did not allow Cam Newton to be free. Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, they say, man, we're kids at a candy store because Tom Brady, he's great, but he can't move. He can't move anymore. Let's run some read options with Cam Newton. Let's give Cam Newton the full playbook. Let's say, hey, Cam Newton, why don't you go truck these linebackers? Why don't you go run for touchdowns out there? They're letting Cam Newton be himself, man. And I love how the Patriots are utilizing Cam Newton. And Cam Newton's ability to run the football adds a new dynamic to the Patriots offense that they just have flat out not had over the past couple of years, okay? Really ever. Because Tom Brady, he's great, but he's not a mobile quarterback. And when it comes to the Patriots, I will say Cam Newton is great. The defense played very well versus the Dolphins. However, Patriots fans, there is a little bit of a cause for concern. Because I don't think this team is dynamic enough to knock off the Kansas Cities and Baltimores of the world in the AFC. I just don't. See, the Miami Dolphins, they're a team on the rise. I like Brian Flores, their head coach. I think Tua is going to be a good quarterback one day, even though he did not start this game. I love the direction the Miami Dolphins are going in. But as of right now, the Miami Dolphins, they're not a playoff team. You can bully the Miami Dolphins. You can have Cam Newton be your leading rusher and get away with it versus the Dolphins. You can have Julian Edelman average 11.4 yards per catch versus the Dolphins and get away with it. You can have N'Keal Harry average 7.8 yards per catch and get away with it because it's the Dolphins. When the Patriots face these other teams that have better rosters and are much more explosive, they don't match up in my opinion. Now, it's only week one. I'm not going to overreact too much and say the Patriots are done for. Actually, this offseason, I had the Patriots as a Super Bowl contender. And I do believe this team will be in the Super Bowl conversation. I do believe this team is probably going to win their division. But I'm just saying, man, Buffalo, did you see how good Josh Allen looked this past week? Josh Allen looked pretty good. That Buffalo Bills roster is pretty stacked, man. So all I'm saying is, Patriots fans, don't get too fat off the Dolphins. Don't pump your guns too much because I still have some concerns about the Patriots because outside of Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry, you are crossing your fingers. You are crossing your fingers, people. And see, Bill Belichick, he's a great head coach. 6 different Patriots ran the football this past Sunday. And Bill Belichick was able to get this Patriots team to rush for 218 yards. That's all great and cute. But I'm sorry, this little cute stuff the Patriots are running where they depend on Cam Newton so much, it's not going to beat Kansas City. And it's not going to beat Baltimore. So if I'm the Patriots, I look to add a wide receiver at the trading deadline. I would lower my expectations just a little bit because the Patriots, while they're still a very good team that probably will make the playoffs, until they show me they're more explosive and more dynamic offensively, I can't say the Patriots are going to go that far. But Cam Newton, he looked great in his debut. He seems rejuvenated. I think a lot of teams were stupid to pass on this guy. The Colts, you should be held accountable. The Colts should be held accountable. How do you choose Phillip Rivers over Cam Newton? They should be ashamed of themselves. The Chargers, they chose Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor over Cam Newton. They should be ashamed of themselves because Cam Newton, as far as I'm concerned, he might be in the MVP conversation this year. The way he's playing right now, he might be. He might have an MVP season this year. He's playing really well. So Cam Newton, he played great. He looks good. He looks good with the Patriots. He seems comfortable. The system seems to fit him. But only time will tell as far as to how far the Patriots will go come postseason time. Let's talk about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to the Chargers 13-16 in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season. But I gotta say, man, Bengals fans should be fairly optimistic about what Joe Burrow brought to the table this past week versus the Chargers. If I were to grade Joe Burrow's performance, I'd give it a solid B. I'll give him a solid B. Joe Burrow was a great quarterback at LSU. He won a Heisman Trophy. He won a national championship. I told you guys that that he was the best quarterback in that draft class. I still believe it. I believe Joe Burrow has a chance to bring the Bengals their first ever Super Bowl one day. And Joe Burrow, so far, so good, man. So Joe Burrow, this past week, 64% completion percentage, 193 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. That interception was a little bit bad. You know, it was a bad look. It was a play in which he kind of realized, hey, these defensive linemen in the NFL, they're better than I think because Melvin Ingram, a guy that usually doesn't drop into coverage, he was covering the running back and Joe Burrow just kind of threw it at the running back and he didn't realize that Melvin Ingram is a dude and even defensive ends can intercept passes, not just defensive backs, Joe Burrow. You got to learn that, but Joe Burrow, he'll learn from that. He'll clean that up, okay? He'll know what he can and can't do after the season, Joe Burrow. He's a smart player. Joe Burrow, he did carry the football as a runner 8 times for 46 yards, had a 23-yard touchdown run. That was amazing to see. He did miss a couple throws. He missed John Ross for a touchdown. He missed another wide receiver for a touchdown. Obviously the interception was bad, but listen, I'm pretty impressed with Joe Burrow just because this guy, he seemed prepared and he didn't seem overwhelmed. And that's very key because rookies this offseason, they've had no preseason games, and Joe Burrow, he inherited a team with a bad offensive line. The team only won 2 games last year. And keep in mind, the Chargers are a very solid football team. They've got very good defensive backs. They've got a real front seven. They got some star wide receivers. They're a very good football team. They're a very talented football team. And Joe Burrow, he was up to the challenge. He did not look overwhelmed. And a guy that inherits a bad roster with not a great offensive line and gets no preseason games to look the way he looked, that's pretty impressive, okay? Joe Burrow was accurate. He made good decisions. He's mobile. He got some wheels to him. And he put the Bengals in position to win the game in his debut. With 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, Joe Burrow drove down the field and helped the Bengals get into scoring position. He threw a very good football to A.J. Green. Unfortunately, A.J. Green, he had offensive pass interference, and that did not allow the Bengals to score that touchdown. But Joe Burrow, he did his job, man. And Joe Burrow put them in position to kick a field goal to potentially take the game to overtime. But Randy Bullock happened. Randy Bullock missed a 31-yard chip shot field goal, and in the process, he injured himself. You cannot make this up, people. You cannot make this up. That is the most Cincinnati Bengals thing I've ever seen. It's not even funny. You can't make this up. And while Bengals fans should feel optimistic about their future with Joe Burrow being on this team does not guarantee you're going to win a whole bunch of games, Cincinnati. Joe Burrow did a lot of things right in that game this past Sunday. But unfortunately, he still came up short. And that's the reality of when you play quarterback for a franchise like the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not trying to poo-poo the Bengals too much. I believe they're a team on the rise. I like some of their parts. But historically, this is a team that has no Super Bowl wins, not a whole lot of playoff success. They've not won a playoff game since 1990. Cincinnati is not a real free agent destination. And not to mention Joe Burrow, he's in a division with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. 2 of the most well-run franchises in the NFL at the moment. So all I'm trying to say is, Bengals fans, listen, you got a talented quarterback in Joe Burrow. Don't screw this up. But there's evidence from this past Sunday in Joe Burrow's debut that no matter what he does sometimes, and no matter how hard he plays sometimes and how well he plays, sometimes the Cincinnati Bengals just might find a way to mess things up. And while the Bengals are on the rise, I will be calmly pausing if I'm a Bengals fan, just because your history shows that Joe Burrow might not be able to turn this team around. But I will say, if anyone can do it, it is definitely Joe Burrow. I believe he provides juice to this franchise. And if I were to bet money, I'd say he turns around that franchise one day if given the right support. However, that's not a guarantee. But we shall see. And it will be fun to watch because Joe Burrow, he's a fun player to watch. He really is. Coming up next, we will talk about Daniel Jones and the Giants and how they fared in a loss versus Pittsburgh this past Monday. We will talk about the Tennessee Titans. And then I will wrap things up previewing the Miami Heat versus Boston Celtics first round matchup of the Eastern Conference Finals for the 2020 NBA playoffs. Do not go anywhere, people. I will be right back. This is Jemima McKinney, and you are tuned into the Juice Alert. Okay, I am back. Let's talk some New York Football Giants right here. Okay, let's talk about the Giants and the Steelers. So the Steelers beat the Giants on Monday Night Football 26-16. And honestly, this comes as no shock to me. I felt Pittsburgh was the better team heading into this game. In a recent episode in which I dropped a couple days ago, I said the Steelers would win 27-13. The Steelers ended up winning 26-16, so I was pretty close about that. Didn't hit it right on the money, but it was pretty close. Like I said, the Steelers, they were just the better team. They were the better team. They pulled away late. Ben Roethlisberger, He was kind of rusty early, but he picked it up, after the first quarter. He played a pretty good game, in my opinion. Juju Smith-Schuster showed up. James Washington had a touchdown. Chase Claypool played well. The Steelers, they ran the ball fairly well. That defense got after Daniel Jones. That defense pretty much shut down Saquon Barkley. And the Steelers, they came in and did what they needed to do. They had the better coaching staff. They had the better roster. And they won the game. That's what the Steelers should have done. I'm not giving the Steelers a cookie for this game. They're 1-0. I want to focus in on the Giants. I think Giants fans should actually be fairly optimistic about the Joe Judge era after game number 1. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Giants are going to be this team that goes out and wins a bunch of games because they're about a 4 or 5 win football team, in my opinion. They're the least talented team in their division at the moment, behind Washington, behind Philadelphia, behind Dallas. New York, they got the worst roster. They got the least experienced head coach. Ron Rivera, he's a real coach. Mike McCarthy, he's a good coach. Maybe not a great coach, but at least a decent coach. And Doug Peterson, he's won a Super Bowl. He's a good coach as well. Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl as well, too. Ron Rivera's been to a Super Bowl as well. I didn't mention that earlier. But, no preseason games. Weird off season. Joe Judge so far, he fared fairly well versus Mike Tomlin and his team. The Giants weren't pushovers in this game. They actually competed. They played fairly well, and that's what you want to see if you're a Giants fan. You just want to see progress from this team. You want to see this team competing. In past years, under McAdoo and under Pat Shurmur, some games the Giants would just lay down to better opponents. They weren't for the challenge. They weren't competing. The players were not progressing. The players were not getting better. Joe Judge and this team seemed prepared for the Steelers. Okay, they seemed prepared. Okay, they came out. They were prepared. And they fought hard. They weren't the better team, so they lost. Okay, that's expected. The Steelers, they have better players. They have a better coaching staff. It's game number 1 for Joe Judge. Joe Judge got no preseason games, This past year was his first ever draft, Give Joe Judge some time. Let's at least evaluate Joe Judge in year 2 or 3 if he, gets past that point. Because if he doesn't win a whole bunch of games this year, he might be out the door, But if Joe Judge goes out and wins 5 to 6 games, I think his job is actually secure. If he wins any less than 5, it might be a question. But I expect the Giants to give this guy at least 1 more year. If he wins about 5, 6 games, they'll probably give him another year. So let's be patient. Let's embrace Joe Judge. Let's see what he brings to the table. So far, his team came out prepared. I'm not going to ridicule the guy too much. The problem with the Giants was they did not win the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line got absolutely bullied by the Steelers' defensive front. Saquon Barkley did nothing in this game. Daniel Jones was pressured for a good amount of the time. And the Giants, they just executed poorly. Okay, they just executed poorly. Daniel Jones, it was early in the first quarter. He had a chance to throw a touchdown to Evan Ingram. That did not work out. He threw an inaccurate ball. Evan Ingram played awful. Saquon Barkley could not get going. Daniel Jones did throw 2 interceptions. But outside of the turnovers and just lack of getting the running game going, the Giants had some bright spots. Daniel Jones, he threw a beautiful football to Darius Slayton for a touchdown. Darius Slayton seems to be progressing. Saquon Barkley, when he was in the open field, played pretty well. The Giants' defense actually played fairly well in certain spots in this game. It's not like they just laid down to the Steelers. At times they did get some pressure on Big Ben, but ultimately, the better team won. The better team won. The game was close heading into the fourth quarter, but the Steelers, they were the better team. But so far, I would say Giants fans should be encouraged by what they've seen from their football team. Now, they do have a brutal schedule going forward. So I say all of that to say this. Giants fans should be encouraged by their performance versus the Steelers despite a loss. And I can't wait to see what else Joe Judge brings to the table as head coach of this team for the remainder of 2020, even though I'm still not quite sold on him as a head coach. But we'll see. We'll see, man. Okay, up next, let's talk about the Broncos and the Titans game in week 1 of the 2020 NFL season. The Titans got a win on the road in Denver versus the Broncos 16-14. And I gotta say, man, the Titans deserve all the credit in the world for this victory. Ryan Tannehill did not play his best game, but Ryan Tannehill made plays when he needed to make them down the stretch to win this football game. Ryan Tannehill, he stood tall in the pocket. He was tough. He made some throws into some tight windows that were very key down the stretch. Derrick Henry played great. This team has a good offensive line. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith. This Titans team has some real weapons. Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach, in my opinion. The defense played very well, limiting Drew Lock and the Broncos' offense to 14 points. Jadeveon Clowney seems to be a very good addition to the team. And anytime you can win on the road versus a very solid football team, and I think Denver's a pretty solid football team, with Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen, this team won 7 games last year. Denver's not a pushover. They've got some real players, especially on offense, okay? For Tennessee to go out there and miss 3 field goals and still win this game despite not being at their best, that shows that they're a pretty darn good football team. Okay, that shows what they're made of. The mark of a good football team is if you can still win games when you don't have your best stuff. And Tennessee, despite not being very explosive offensively, despite missing several field goals, they got a dub on the road. This is very key for Tennessee. Tennessee was a team that I did not have in the playoffs. I was kind of waiting to see with Ryan Tannehill. I was kind of waiting to see with this team. But at the time in which I made my prediction, they did not have Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney definitely helps this team out. And honestly, I won't be shocked if the Titans make the playoffs. And this is very key because the Broncos, I believe they're a team that's going to be in playoff contention down the stretch. And Tennessee, they got a leg up on Denver if it were to be a tiebreaker down the stretch. And Tennessee, you should feel good about yourself, okay? Now the Broncos. I'm not too overly concerned about Denver. This is a game that they should have won. They vastly outplayed Tennessee for most of this game, in my opinion. They just did a horrible job of executing. Maybe not vastly outplayed Tennessee, just because Tennessee did miss 3 field goals. But Denver, they had their chances, man. They were up 7-0 early in the game, but someone fumbled. I forget who it was. It may have been Melvin Gordon. I can't remember who fumbled, but there was a fumble. Tennessee capitalized. They scored 7 points off of that. Drew Lock and that offense had opportunity in the red zone to score some points in the second quarter. They failed to score any points. The Tennessee Titans stopped them on 4th and goal. Drew Lock, he played an okay game. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't all that great. There was some good from Drew Lock in this game, but there was also some bad from Drew Lock in this game. He made a very good throw to Noah Fant in the end zone. But also he missed some throws. He missed a couple of touchdown passes. He was inaccurate at times when moved off a spot. And all I'm going to say about Drew Lock is be patient, Broncos fans. Be patient with Drew Lock. Drew Lock, he's still very young as a player. He's never played a full entire season. Last year, he only started 5 games, okay? He's still very raw. He's learning a new system. It was the first game. Let's see how Drew Lock progresses. That's what I'm going to look for this Broncos team. I do believe he is the quarterback of the future of the team. Not officially, but if I were to project, I say he's talented enough, got a big arm, can move around. He's got the tools, okay? And that's all I got to say about Drew Lock and the offense. They didn't have Courtland Sutton playing this game. Courtland Sutton not being there definitely made a huge impact, even though we did see Noah Fant flash. We did see Jerry Jeudy play well. When Courtland Sutton is not playing for this Broncos team, I think they're going to get into some trouble because Courtland Sutton is their best and most complete wide receiver. So, yeah, we'll see how Denver fares late as the season goes by. I do think that Denver has a chance to beat Pittsburgh this upcoming week. Pittsburgh, I'm not too sold on Pittsburgh. I do think Denver has a chance to beat them, but we'll see, man. Vic Fangio, though. Vic Fangio, if you're going to blame the loss on someone for Denver, you got to blame Vic Fangio. Because this guy, he managed the game down the stretch horribly, not using any of his timeouts. And he talked about saving his timeouts, in his press conference after the game. But guess what, Vic Fangio? If you only have 24 seconds to score from your own 20-yard line when you get the ball back from Tennessee after they kick that field goal, guess what? Your saved timeouts are no good, okay? You need to preserve at least about a minute or 2 for your team to get an opportunity to go down and score because think about this. What would you rather have? Would you rather have several timeouts and 24 seconds to try to score a game-winning field goal? Or would you rather have about a minute and 30 seconds left and then a chance to go down the field and kick the field goal to win with no timeouts? I'd take the situation in which I'd have about a minute 30 left with no timeouts to kick the field goal and try to win the game. That's what I would do. But Vic Fangio, he's different and he blew the game. If you're going to blame someone for losing the game, you got to blame Vic Fangio. I'm not quite sold on Fangio as the head coach of this team. I'm not going to ridicule the guy too much just because I don't know if he's a good head coach or a bad head coach yet, just because last year his quarterback play was not very good. His team still won 7 games. So now that he has a young, promising quarterback that I feel good about in Drew Lock, this is where we need to judge Vic Fangio. So we'll see, man. I will say the defense still played very well, despite Von Miller not being there. But the offensive line is still a bit of a question mark. And Drew Lock in this offense, they're not fully in sync. But I do believe that once they get in sync, they'll be special to watch. Okay, people, I have one final topic to talk about before I wrap up the show. I want to talk about Miami and Boston. So the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics face off today at the time of this recording. At the time of this recording, it is Tuesday. The game is going to be getting underway within the next hour or so at the time of this recording. So this is probably going to get out to you guys late, potentially, okay? I don't know when it's going to get out to you guys. I have to edit the show. I have to put this out. I have to, see if the show looks good, if it sounds good, all that good stuff. But I will say, I'm still going to preview this matchup for you guys between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. So Boston, they're heading into the series versus Miami after sweeping Philadelphia and beating the Toronto Raptors in 7 games. The Miami Heat, they swept the Indiana Pacers, and they just beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games. Who's going to win? This is tough for me because I do think that Boston matches up pretty well with Miami. And Boston, they've got a better record than Miami on the season. Actually, if you look at things, Boston does have the leg up on Miami in the standings. Not that that really matters anymore, just because there's no home court advantage anymore due to the NBA bubble. But I'm going to pick the Miami Heat to win this matchup in 6 games for a couple of reasons. When I look at Miami, I get a team with the better head coach, with the best player in the series named Jimmy Butler. Miami has more size than Boston, and they have more depth than Boston. Boston's starting 5 is very good. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, they're great. But Boston's bench is not very good. And ultimately, I believe that Boston's lack of size and lack of depth is going to hurt them in this series. Gordon Hayward is not going to be active for game number 1 as of right now. Gordon Hayward, the last time I checked, it said Gordon Hayward was not going to play in game number 1. So I don't know if Gordon Hayward is going to return for this series. But if Gordon Hayward does play at some point, he could make a difference. However, coming off an injury, I don't know how good Gordon Hayward is going to be. But I look at Miami. I just think that Miami is more built to win this matchup more so than Boston. Miami, you look at Tyler Herro, he's a good shooter. Kendrick Nunn, Andre Iguodala, Kelly Olynyk. That's their bench players. Not to mention you got Bam Adebayo in that starting lineup. He's a great player. Not a great player, but a good player that played very well this past year. Jimmy Butler's been playing very well in the playoffs. Gordon Dragic, Robinson, he's been playing well. He's been playing great as well. Miami is more versatile defensively. They've got more size. Miami has the better coach. Jimmy Butler's the best player in this series. They've got more depth. And I got to pick Miami to win this series. After what I saw Miami do to Milwaukee, who had the best record in the NBA, I cannot ignore that. I know that Boston just beat Toronto in a 7-game series. Some people argue that Toronto is better than Milwaukee. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about that too much, just because you could definitely make that argument that Toronto was a better team than a better team than Milwaukee. But I'm going to go with the team that's more well-rested as Miami. They wrapped up their series, several days ago, whereas Boston has less rest coming into the series, even though I don't think that's going to affect Boston too much just because they're a young team with fresh legs. I believe that Miami is the better team, and I believe that Miami will prevail over Boston in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I believe Miami punches their ticket to the 2020 NBA Finals to face either the Nuggets, the Clippers, or the Lakers. Well, people, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In next week's episode, I will be diving into who are the top 10 NFL quarterbacks. I will be ranking all the NFL quarterbacks in the episode. We'll talk about some other NFL topics that I did not get to in this episode regarding week 1 of the 2020 NFL season. We will talk some basketball, hopefully next episode, as the Clippers and the Nuggets play tonight. Can't wait for that matchup to go down tonight. I think the Clippers will probably win that game. But yeah, man, I thank you all for tuning in today. Have a God bless day. And this has been Jamon McKinney, and I'm out. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.